The following podcast is run by a couple of former wheel turners and one pit guy. It's meant for entertainment, not so much information, but sometimes there's some good information. The opinions expressed are just, these are the morons on the show. Not necessarily right, not necessarily wrong, not the views of any of the sponsors or anything like that. So, these guys, they're going to be talking, they might swear here and there, so if that offends you, either grow up or get a little permission from mom and dad.
Welcome everybody to the One to Go Show, presented by Impact Health Sharing. It is the one and only Bert Lehman in the Daytona 1 shirt. I see the same one I have on, and it is the Coach Kraus coming at you with what kind of hat you got on there?
Well, I got my Minnesota Vikings hat
on.
I'm getting ready for preseason games, and hopefully see my boy J. McCarthy get ready to rock. And then I got my Dale McDowell T-shirt on. He had a little hard luck last night, but I'm a big Dale McDowell fan.
I heard about that. What do you know on that? I heard Winger got some airtime.
Yeah, Winger, it was a great race. It was going to be a great race, and Winger was running the wall, and McDowell was typically running his middle. And boy, I watched the replay a whole bunch. It looked like a complete racing deal, and they jumped wheels, and McDowell went spinning down the back straightaway, and Winger jumped up into the wall. So just a good hard racing from the looks of it.
Okay. All right. Well, it is Puka speaking. Good to be back. Good to see everybody. I haven't been on the show since episode 200, so now we're at 235. So it's definitely been a while. So Bert and I just got back from Cedar Lake. It's Sunday night, so we're going to record this quick and we'll get it out to as fast as we can. Of course, we're missing our true main partner in crime, Ryan Ayo. Now, what's the deal, guys? A little mysterious here. Going away with his girl, Brenda. They've been together for what? I don't know, a handful of years, just mom and dad. Is there a secret wedding going on up on this cruise? Huh? He's not passing guy code by not letting us know.
Well, I don't know, Puka, with the did he have a big birthday this past week too, I believe?
Yeah, last week. Yeah, the big 5-0. The big 5-0. So that's what I'm saying. It's all kind of coming together here.
I don't know. Maybe he is going to take the plunge. I don't know. We all did. And, we all know how some of them end up or some of them are going. So who knows? It's completely mysterious. The great thing about the whole thing is he hardly has any cell phone reception up there. So it's been pretty peaceful and pretty quiet with our Pick'em group. So it's good that he's up in, I call it Northern Siberia, Puka. I know you're a hockey guy. That's right out of Slapshot. So it's good that he's up there with no cell phone reception.
Yeah, well, Brian, if you're going to pop the question, good luck. Make sure you get on one knee here. So speaking of Ryan Ayo, of course, support for the show comes from Impact Health Sharing, of course he is involved with. You've heard him many times on their show talk about if healthcare is something that seems to be unaffordable for you, or you're just looking for a change, give Ryan a call, 969-1380. Like he always says, he can give you a no obligation quote. So you can kind of take a look at those numbers and see if he can help you with that. All right. So like we said, episode 235, we're just jumping to a few items that were going on this week, and might as well go back. Start out on Tuesday with the Little Dream. Not a race I was able to see, but I'm pretty sure you did, Coach Kraus.
Yeah, I did. It's something that I was fortunate enough to be part of for 3 years. I actually raced in that race 2016, 2017, and 2018 in my short little brief street stock career I had there. And first year I went out there, I was in actually my wife's cousin's car, Duran Peterson. Went out there in 2016, didn't make the show. I was in that LCQ race. You know how you got a race and it got fourth in that. And then the next 2 years, I went out there with my car and was running in the top 5 in 2017. And I punted Sam Fankhauser, got sent to the back. And then 2018, I started 21st and got 8th and got the hard charger. It's a great event. You don't know how big that event is till you go out there, and you see the fans. It's completely packed. It's a Tuesday night. And what FYE Motorsports and Chris Deppen does for that show is absolutely unbelievable. When I ran it, it was about $16,000. Now you're up to $30,000. So it's just a great event. It's something you need to go see it. I don't know if you've been there, Puka or Bert, if you've been to that race. You physically have to go to that race to appreciate it, and just be a part of it. And like I said, I was fortunate enough to be part of it for 3 years, and it's absolutely awesome. And obviously this year, the big 30-year anniversary with 30,000 to win and nothing but complete drama. My phone blew up Wednesday morning, guys. I woke up and we all went to bed thinking Nick Trainer was the winner. We all did, $30,000 richer, and sounds like 2 a.m. was about the final decision. So they had a long night. And I woke up, my phone blew, Nick Trainer DQ'd, and boy, was Facebook obviously was having some fun. The keyboard warriors were out. My phone was blowing up. I know Ryan's phone was blowing up, and get to the bottom of it. And at the end of the day, I talked to a lot of people last night about this, and it was 100% the right call. The engine was illegal. The intake was illegal. And from my sources, Nick Trainer, he does not own that car. He drives a guy for that car. And they were told that engine was 100% legal, and it wasn't. And hats off to Wissota. It's right. Sucks for Nick Trainer and his car owner. His car owner, guys, he actually turned that engine into Wissota, and he wanted to know what else was wrong with it. Came back that the heads were also illegal on it. So, yeah, it's a major infraction. And so, hats off to the tech guys. Ken Stavrum was out there from Wissota. For finding this. This is the stuff they need to be looking for, guys. We rip on Wissota all the time, and the teching and the nitpicking and, a fender here and a half inch there and this and that. And now all of a sudden they find something that's actually performance enhancing, and sucks for Nick Trainer. That's 30 grand out of the tank. So good car count. I think there's right around, I think it was 59 cars, I think was what the total was. So the car count was good for a Tuesday night, but a lot of drama there. And I know, Bert, I think you guys were watching the race, but it sucks for Nick Trainer, but I'm glad they got things right and they found something illegal that's actually meaningful. And you got to get rid of this stuff in that class.
Yeah. Bert, anything to add?
Yeah, well, first I just want to say I have never been to that event in person. That is on my bucket list. I do want to go to that event someday. This was actually the first year that I actually watched the feature live. So yeah, I was watching it and I went to bed. I thought I was +2 in the pick'ems. I texted everybody, Bert +2, and then I woke up in the morning and heard about the DQ. And the first thing I thought was, I hope it's not some nitpicky thing. If it's a DQ, I hope it's not that you want something serious, but I didn't want it to be something nitpicky that would cause a lot of controversy. But I mean, when you're dealing with the engines, I mean, yeah, you have to DQ them in that situation.
Well, the interesting thing is this purse. So this is the Tuesday before the USA Nationals. You drive down the road for an hour? I don't know, 45 minutes to Cedar Lake. I said we got a street stock purse paying 30, super late model purse paying 50. It gets a little closer every year. I don't know if the owners of Cedar Lake are going to start feeling some pressure or heat at some point. I remember when it was 10 grand or 12 grand.
Yeah, it's just a cool deal what they do there for the street stocks. And a lot of people don't realize that race starts at $1,000, and then obviously they bring out the last year's winner donates the first $100 bill, Tourville donates the $100, and then it goes to $1,100, and it's nonstop donations, and it's turned into now those guys do a great job. It's 30-year anniversary around 30 grand, and it hit 30 grand, and the year I got 8th place, guys, you come home with envelopes like. That's all you get money. You get your normal $350 or whatever it is, and I got like 10 envelopes. I got $8 for 8th place from an anonymous person. John Canta Racing, I got $100 bill from for 8th place. You know what I mean? So it's cool stuff like that really makes that race. That's awesome. And like I said, you just have to be there because the atmosphere is electric at that.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, let's jump into a quick ad here. Smash the like button, everyone. Fast Lane Motorsports and Powder Coating, home of the Galloper chassis. All things racing. Bert, not Bert, no, because he didn't do the Fans Fun this year, Bert, but Dennis McCauley, actually, he was like the big winner at the Fans Fun. They do drawings there, and they're giving away all kinds of prizes, and he walked away with at least 2 that I saw. And of course, Dennis is the sponsor of what Ryan likes to call the greatest series in all of Wazota, the Fast Lane Superstock Series. So, like I said, looking for anything racing, all things racing, and home of the Galloper chassis, get a hold of Fast Lane Motorsports and Powder Coating. All right, guys, you want to get into Thursday? Or actually, why don't we touch on this real quick? We don't know a lot, but there was obviously a lot of news that happened Wednesday night at Cedar Lake. Bert and I being down there, all kinds of speculation. I didn't want to just glaze over it, but I don't think there's enough facts out there to really jump on a story. But I just wondered if either of you had anything to add on, obviously, the Ricky Weiss situation from Wednesday night.
Well, I just want to say there's a lot of stories circulating on Facebook, on social media. You don't know what to believe, and I guess I'm just waiting until I hear some facts as to what actually happened. Either way, though, it's just a bad situation, and it's unfortunate that it happened. And Ricky did win the Fans Fun Dash, and there were noticeable boos from the crowd after he won that race. So people have their opinions as to what happened. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Coach?
Yeah, I didn't. Obviously, I got to know Ricky fairly well. We pitted next to each other for years up at I-94 Speedway, and he was a regular at Viking Speedway when we had late models. So, like you said, the rumors are the rumors. I've heard some pretty nasty stuff that's going out there that was being done to him, and you don't know if that's true or what's been going on. So, the big thing is hopefully they get things squared away, and if what happened was happened, let's take care of the business, and get it done. Obviously he's there to race, and if there's some people messing with him doing stuff like that, sometimes you got to take care of business. But it's good to see him out there and good to see him racing. And he even said in his interview after the Fans Fun, he goes, sounds like, well, at least they're making noise up in the stands. Yeah. And you couldn't really hear it on the broadcast. I'm sure you guys did, but he kind of pulled the Dale Earnhardt and said, well, at least they're making noise up there. So I thought that was kind of interesting because, like I said, with the keyboard warriors, a lot of people, they're just reading what's going on. You're reading these other sites and they're just posting random stuff and there's no facts there. And like I said, I had called actually a lot of people and tried to get some real facts out. And like I said, you got to believe what you got to believe. But, rough start to the weekend. And, you don't want things to start like that when police are involved and cops are involved. You don't want anything. And then then you got one of the racers involved too. And it's kind of home territory for Ricky too. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of fans there and stuff like that too. So hopefully they get everything squared away and he can put that behind him and keep moving on.
Yeah, there was some concern when I arrived on Thursday whether they're going to allow him to race. And I think, Bert, when we first saw each other, I think you had already said that you saw him on the driver's list on My Race Pass or something, but there was a lot of concern. But yeah, I heard 3 different stories. Of course, all of them told me they had really good sources, and the 3 stories are all completely so different. I mean, not even the same subject matter. I mean, it was like, it was this, and it was this. I'm like, holy cow, this is like completely wacky. So anyway, but yeah, best wishes to him and his team, and hopefully, they can get this turned around and put it behind them. All right, before we get into Thursday, real quick, Hard Charger Performance Specialties. So Nick Hoff, we've already been talking about Nick and all the engine building he does now. I did just have some communication with Nick because I said I sent him a text because he used to come down to Cedar Lake at the Provenzinos back in the day. But he will actually be up here for the big XR swing coming up this next week or starting tomorrow. So if you want to talk to Nick personally and have some questions about engines or the dyno or anything, find Hank Berry's late model, and Nick Hoff will be with Smoke and Hank all week, of course, depending on everything of theirs holding together and not wrecking, that they'll make the whole swing. So Hard Charger Performance Specialties, 406-478-4437. Nick Hoff's who you're looking for. And like I said, you'll be able to catch him right in the heart of Wazota country here this week. All right. Well, who wants to start on Thursday, Bert? I mean, we got there. Excited. The annual pilgrimage. I saw I always look for your Facebook posts. I know you're going to put one up at about a little after 1 o'clock that you're heading down the road. And it's quite frankly, for me, life's been so busy. I just didn't really have the excitement I normally have until it seems like I crossed the St. Croix River and got into Wisconsin. Then it just hit. It's like, all right, here we go. Going back to Cedar Lake.
Yeah, I was ready for this year's race. I was ready on Monday. I was like, okay, let's just get to Thursday already. And I knew they got a lot of rain on Wednesday night, but everything seemed to be a go, and we got there and they were working on the track. But you could tell that when they were working on the track, I mean, the packing vehicles were just bouncing, and you could see the ruts being made in the track as they were packing. So there was a lot of moisture in that track. And then I talked to some people who said they talked to some drivers, and the driver said we're never going to be racing tonight. But they kept packing, and eventually they made the call to postpone the program until Friday afternoon. So it was unfortunate, but then on Friday they did announce that the drivers voted not to race Thursday night, that they wanted to race on Friday. They didn't make that announcement, so which doesn't surprise me, because you don't want to be tearing up your equipment on the first night of a 3-day show.
Well, that was kind of the speculation. Like I told you, I had gone by Hoffman's trailer, and I mean, I thought the cars would be coming on the track at any minute, and he's in his souvenir trailer, and he's like, oh, at least an hour. And that was, I don't know, 8:15, 8:30, and I thought, holy cow, another hour. Because remember how they tilled it, let it sit for a while there, Bert. Remember, that was that was after I'd seen him. Then it made a little bit more sense. Coach, what'd you think?
Yeah, they made the right call. It's boy, like Bert said, you can tear up some equipment there, but the flip side is that you wreck that track on Thursday, you're not getting it back for Friday or Saturday. It's super tough to fix the track. You get ruts in that thing, and hey, the other flip side is if they voted that you have to deal with the day racing, then you know what I mean. I saw Turbo made a post. I don't know if you guys saw that. I don't know what it was on, but he called Cedar Lake Cedar Rubber. Well, if you voted for not to race on Thursday, don't be complaining about if it did. It latched down a little bit, rubber on the bottom there Thursday night, but they made. I thought it was probably Friday. I thought that was probably one of the better day races I've seen.
Yep.
But they made the right call. Like I said, you don't want to lose the track on Thursday, and then you have a terrible rest of the weekend. So, they tilled that place up, and it was wet. It would have been hammered down rodeo. I think you could have wrecked a lot of cars, and the worst case, you wrecked the racetrack.
Yeah, that's a great point. I that was something I hadn't thought about. That's your promoter's hat coming on there, Coach. The track, and for those of you that didn't stream it or weren't there, the drivers, and Bert, you can concur, there were no complaints. They all said they're doing the best they can. They're working with what we have. In all the drivers' interviews, Bert, everyone seemed pretty positive.
Yeah, I agree. They were saying they're doing the best they can, and they'll keep working on it. And actually, that's what they did. I mean, that the heat races weren't that great during the afternoon race, but we all know that day racing doesn't produce that great of racing. But they kept working on it. They kept watering, and like Coach said, and I agree. I was going to make this point. I thought the feature was a pretty good feature for a day race. I mean, I had no complaints about the feature for the day race. Granted, the races leading up to that weren't that great, but it is what it is.
Well, speaking of that, why Turbo was complaining, because remember he rolled backward right in front of it, not rolled over, but remember he got spun backward and was actually coming, coasting backward almost into us. So I guess it doesn't surprise me. Let's get into like car counts and just kind of who was there and who wasn't there. Any surprises on who was, any surprises who wasn't. And I'm not just talking on the World of Outlaws side, but also on the One to Go Show late model side.
I guess I'm really not surprised as to who wasn't there. I mean, I knew Devin Moran wasn't going to be there. He hasn't been there for several years. McDowell, well, he was racing down in the Southern Tour, and he hasn't come up to Cedar Lake for a while. I really wasn't surprised at with who wasn't there. Marlar was there, but he wasn't racing his normal car. He was racing for somebody else, but it was still good to see him there. And I know Bloomquist was there because of the Fans Fund. And I mean, it's actually good to see him race again. I mean, he's not, he's not the Bloomquist of old, but it was still good seeing him race. And he was actually more competitive than what I thought he was going to be. I mean, he was knocking on the door for those transfer spots, but he wound up getting as one Facebook user said, one of the I'm Scott Bloomquist provisionals.
Well, I would have liked to have seen, and Coach, you can add to this. Let's stick on Bloomquist for just a second. When that feature got going, there were a couple of restarts, and Pierce had a hard time lapping him. It really took him a while. And then I heard after the race, and I don't know if any of you heard this, but I heard, when they ended the race at lap, 54, 50, I heard Pierce's tires are pretty well melted off. Hannah had reported on some of the hot pit stuff that people were changing tires and people were eating up. I would love to have seen if that was true on Pierce's tire and kind of what Bloomquist said looked like, because, he was just rolling through the middle like he always does. Nice and smooth and never looked like he upset the car.
Yeah, I didn't, like I said, it was Saturday night when the big race was going on, and we were at Viking Speedway getting ready to rock. I was fortunate enough to watch it. But they clipped through that show real quick. They did I thought they farmed pretty well for that 100-lapper deal. But I didn't think the track, it looked like it would have been super interesting if it would have kept going on. I don't know if Sorensen would have got both them, but he was coming up top. But it looked like they were all searching for the rubber in the middle of the track. They were just waiting for it to latch up. And I don't know if they went soft, hoping it was going to rain, or what was going to go down there. So,
yeah.
Okay,
that could have been why.
Maybe they were playing out, we're not going to make 100 laps. We're going to play for the rain. It's
right.
Kind of like a NASCAR race. You know what I mean? They're sitting there, they got all these weather apps going, let's stay out. We don't need to pit and do this and that. So, from that standpoint, I think we were all expecting 50 super late models, and that's about right what they were at. The big story is the Cedar Lake late models. With 20, they only have 23 on Saturday, was it?
Had three heats.
I'm pretty sure I only saw 23 finish. I think they had 26 on. They picked up some for the second show. Obviously Thursday's pretty tough for some people to race, but you look at that last year, there was more Cedar Lake late models than there was super late models. And I know Mr. Aho made a bold prediction that there was going to be more Cedar Lake late models than World Outlaw late models. That wasn't the case. So I was really, really surprised with that number. With 26 to 23 to 26. I mean, usually there's, like I said, 40 to 50, and Sean Meyer was down there from the Wapaton area. I know I-94 ran their regular night on Friday, and there was a couple guys up there, but other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of late model racing going on. So I was really surprised with, the Cedar Lake Wissota late model type deals that they're with their car count.
Yeah, I noticed like the Tollicksons, they're a mainstay. Not any cars up in my area up north. I mean, normally it's Zach Wallers is the only one. I think he's going through some engine trouble. But I think a part of the conversation too needs to lead into like I said, the big week coming up with the XR. There were people that said, well, so-and-so, he's saving his stuff. So-and-so saving his stuff. They got a big week coming up. They got 20,001 for, in Ashland next Saturday. So I think that change of dates, because last couple of years that XR deal's been in July. And now moving it to the week after the Nationals, I think that definitely affected the like what we like to call the One to Go Show late models there at Cedar Lake. Anything else to add there? Well, go ahead. Oh, I thought you were going to say something, Bert.
No.
Let me see here. Who else was it? Oh, Bert, one thing, the Simpson brothers. they've been mainstays down there. Chad and Chris Simpson not showing up this year. I mean, they've been there, it seems like 20 years in a row, and all of a sudden them not showing up. That Daniel, is it Baumgartner, number 10, just about won the $5,000 a couple of weeks ago. I think lives in Bargander. There you go. Bargander. I think he works at MB. That was one that surprised me too.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why there weren't more, but I think that's a good point with the XR swing coming up, with a week-long span of racing, people may be saving their money and their equipment.
Well, and it was, like you said, it was so good to see Bloomquist back there, because I think 2020 was the last year that I could remember that he was there. And then even T-Mac. It's kind of funny, Bloomquist and T-Mac in the Fans Fund. And by the way, Fans Fund, thanks for all of you everything you do, all of you help put that on, everyone that donates. Another great year, another great event, a great group of drivers, great event, there on Saturday afternoon. But like I said, I don't know, 5 years ago even, just, T-Mac and Bloomquist, they're like favorites to win. And now they're kind of, they haven't been around for a while. So they're coming through I don't really want to say they're coming through the back door, but, just the thought of those two being the Fans Funds, atrocious in some ways.
Well, I mean, when Bloomquist was on the track and he was, knocking on the door for transfer spots, I mean, there was a little bit of an extra buzz in the crowd I could sense. And, whether you love him or hate him, dirt late model racing is better when he's out there and he's at least somewhat competitive.
Yeah. Anything else to add, Crows?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Ricky Thornton Jr. for that Fans Fund race. He didn't even have to be out there. You know what I mean? He was already qualified, and I get it's a provisional, but I think he wanted to show his support for the fans because they put him in there, and then he put on a show. Him and Ricky put on a show in that race. I thought it was a very good Fans Fund race, and someone last year did that too, that they put on a deal. So I think Ricky Thornton Jr. said, hey, this is a Fans Fund deal. Let's put on a show for the fans because this is the reason why this race is here. So got to give a shout out to that race too. And like you said, Bloomquist was kind of, he had to be there. Thornton was already in. Ricky wins that race, and if Ricky races his way in, Bloomquist obviously got in anyway. But it's kind of a cool deal. Cool to see Bloomquist out there, and even McCready came out there. And I think anytime you can get your car on the track at that place for $50,000 to win, those guys are going to race. But pretty cool to see RTJ put on a show for the fans in the Fans Fund race.
All right, I'm looking here, guys. Yeah, 24-car field for the one to go show. Let's see. I'm just looking at my race pass here real quick. Heat 1 had 11. Heat 2 had 10. Heat 3 had 10. So 31. 31.
What day was that on? What day was that on?
This is Saturday, yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I guess we wouldn't really talk about car costs, but I agree on the Ricky Thornton Jr. Although, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, but even at 31, that's lower than past years.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's really that XR deal. But yeah, Ricky Thornton Jr. I remember talking to somebody after that Fans Fund dash, and you could tell. You go back and watch that, and on the backstretch, he thought about on that last lap, I think, throwing a slider on Ricky. And then I think he realized, wait. This is for $2,500. Tomorrow's for $50,000. Let's just, because it looked like he got a nice run. And then he almost got into 3 a little bit. He kind of like, we don't need to push it. This is it. This is a glorified heat race for them. All right. Well, let's anything else on Thursday? We're moving to Friday.
We can move to Friday.
Okay. All right. So let's get into Friday. But real quick, thank you for more supporters of the show, which is Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. Of course, we talked about the tire treatments. We've talked about the different lubricant products. I was able to sling some hats. Of course, me and Bert got the beautiful gear on today, but we were able to sling some hats, some keychains to some racers and race fans. We were down there at Cedar Lake this weekend. So thanks Daytona 1 for the kachis and setting us up, and people kind of like that. So check out their website. But if you have any detailed questions, give Chad a call, 507-828-3536, 507-828-3536. And again, a big thank you to Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. All right. So day 2 of Cedar Lake ended up being day 1 of Cedar Lake. And who wants to start on this one? Well, here, I got a real quick start.
Yeah.
We've had this happen many times. Coach, you weren't on the show as much then, but hot last come out Friday. Another victim, Trevor Gundaker, enters corner 3. Back tire goes rolling off. Kraus, you ever had that happen? Hot lap?
Nope, never have.
Yeah, lug nuts are important.
I mean, I can't believe the number in the last 5 years. And I don't know, Kraus, as a racer, 30 years ago, seems they went to a race and they had one. Remember, they had just a single jack. The car was kind of jacked up, a tarp on the back. Maybe one tire was off. Nobody was doing anything all day. Now, right when I went to the fans, when I got there 11 o'clock, every car's on jack stands. Half the body panels are off. Going through every nut and bolt. Is there just too much to do? And then this some of it, like, look at Pierce with that oil cooling deal over in Eldora, wrecking a motor.
Yeah, it's victim of those pit lifts. It's those new pit lifts. You know what I mean? You come in, you pull it in there, and everybody puts their cars on pit lifts. And what's the first thing you do? You take all 4 tires off. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still old school, guys. I got the one jack, and we got to jack up one corner at a time and change and change. That's what I do. And while those pit lifts are $1,000, $2,000 too. I don't got that kind of money. I'd rather put my money in a car than into a pit lift. So, and then people get in a hurry. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, the 4 tires are sitting there. They don't put them on. They drop their car down, and you go rolling out. And here you go. Wheels go flying off, like you said, Puka. You didn't see it, now all of a sudden you see it. Man, you see probably once or twice a month somewhere where there's tires rolling all over the place. So, and you think with all the pit guys those guys got roaming around, and there's a lot going on there, they just forget to tighten them up. And like you said, you forget to do stuff and end up costing you a lot of money and, losing a big race.
Well, and the worst part is go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when I was on a pit crew, that was my job. My job was to make sure the lug nuts were tight. And there were times when I'd tighten them, and then, I'd watch a race. It's like, I started to doubt myself. So then I'd go tighten them again just to double check.
Well, when that happens to guys too, it's like the walk of shame. Because there's the tow trucks are not they're not dialed, right? They're sitting there, and it's you're doing the hot laps parade lap. So the flag man's not even looking. All of a sudden, there he was sitting there in corner 3, tires rolling around. Takes forever to communicate. Everybody's wondering why the green flag isn't dropping. Now everyone's looking at you. Then there's the slow tow off, and it's just like, oh gosh, it's got to be one of the worst feelings on earth. Just embarrassing. Well, here, I'll throw something out there real quick, and then Bert, why don't we go to you? You can respond, and then Coach, you can respond and add. But Shane Edgerton again, impressive. 2 in a row. 2 years in a row, capturing that future on Friday. And Pat Dorr, of course, led the most laps. Pretty rare you see somebody pass Pat Dorr at Cedar Lake, especially in a big show. But for all the struggles he had this year, leading the most laps. But of course, Edgerton get him at the end. Bert, why don't we just start there with the one-to-go-show late models, and we'll move on to Woo.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think Coach and Ryan lit a fire under Dorr because they've been putting him on their not hot list, and he got 2 seconds. And like you said, he led most of that one feature, but then got passed late in the race. He did finish 17th on Saturday, so he fell off there. But good weekend overall by Dorr. Nick Avalink in that first feature led a good portion of that, and then him and Panitsky, is that how you pronounce it? They had a good battle. I mean, Nick led it until they got into traffic, and then they were slicing and dicing for the proper lane. But then, I don't know, with around 4 laps to go, Nick pulled to the infield, and I talked to Nick's dad after the races, and they broke a crank trigger, so the car just quit on him. So he was unable to continue and finished 17th in that race.
Oh, wow. Okay. Coach?
And then he finished.
Sorry,
Oh, that's right. He finished 4th in the night feature. So started on the pole and dropped back to 4th. So got a little bit of redemption.
Yeah. Coach, any observations from Friday?
Yeah, good to like I said, I think we did. I don't know if it was Ryan or myself lighting up Pat Dorr or if it was his crew chief, Tim McCready. I don't know if you guys heard. T-Mac was up at Superior. Was that on Tuesday night? Same night as the Little Dream. T-Mac drove up there and was the crew chief for Pat Dorr, and found something. That was a brand new rocket. And he's been struggling with it. So T-Mac was up there wrenching on the car. At least what Pat said. He thanked his crew chief twice that night. His wife usually, and then he said the rocket won, and then he said T-Mac in victory lane. So cool to see that. It's good to see that those guys are helping out local guys. So I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with probably this week. So that was interesting. And like you said, Shane Edgington, it's always competitive down there. I think little extra fire under his belt when he's down there. Him and obviously Ricky Weiss are good buddies. I think that's why he goes down there to hang out with him, and he's always fast down there. And good to see an NLRA, kind of Wasota guy too, go down there and have a good run. And it was a good race. I thought it was definitely a good race. Thought Nick Panitsky was strong all weekend. Good to see him fast, but it's good. Like I said, we all want to see Pat Dorr up front because it's fun watching him and listening to his interviews and stuff like that. So I thought overall it was a really good race with the One to Go show late models.
Yeah. He gave another goofy answer there on Friday after that. I can't remember what he said, but
well, he was asked if he was gonna make any changes or something, and he said, "No, I'm not making any changes because I wouldn't know what to do anyway." So
yeah, there you go. Yeah. And then
typical. He's interesting interview.
Yeah, that's what Chris Steppens. If you haven't heard a Pat Dorr interview before, that is a Pat Dorr interview right there. He said, and my brother actually drove by Pat Dorr's shop this morning on the way out and said the Rocket One was pulled in there and parked there. Must have spent the night there. So that's interesting. That's interesting stuff. All right, what else did I have from Friday here?
Well, while you're looking, I'll just mention a tough weekend for AJ Demo. He was involved in an altercation in the first feature on Friday, which so he didn't finish, and then in the heat race for the night feature or for the night races, he was involved in that Hannestad deal when Hannestad rolled and tore up AJ's car pretty good, and AJ actually left after Friday's races to go back to the shop to see what damage was all done.
Yeah, I remember you said that. Here's what I was going to say. Now I'm going to move over to the Woo. Coach, as a racer, it was the Friday night feature of the World of Outlaws. Pierce and Dillard get together right on the front stretch, kind of hung up on one another. And here comes Mad Max McLaughlin 3 or 4 seconds later, barreling on the top. Has that ever happened to you? And I guess like 3 questions. Has it ever happened to you? Can you blame Mad Max? And aren't there people yelling in your ear, caution, caution, caution? Because I think they were already stopped. They had been hung up. They were stopped. And 3 seconds later, he hit him pretty hard.
Yeah, it was, well, as far as the racing incident with Pearson and Dillard, it kind of happened to me on Saturday, actually. Dexton Cook kind of threw a slider on me, and I kind of mistimed my crossover and got into him. But then I did what Dillard didn't do. I lifted because it was either wreck us both. And Dillard's got a brake pedal. I get it. All he had to do was lift there. You know what I mean? He ended up wrecking both of them. And then, like you said, sometimes it's hard with flagman and corner guys. If the flagman's watching something else and the corner guy don't pick it up, there's going to be a little bit of delay there. But Mad Max came in there, and it might have been a little marbly up there because you could kind of see he was trying to whoa up, but he just couldn't. And if you're committed on the cushion up there, especially at Cedar Lake, them tight tracks, if you're committed up on the cushion, you can't see what's coming out of 4. I think he had enough time to slow up, but I think it was a racing deal that could have been prevented. I think, it's, Bobby Pierce comes across you and it's your chance, and he's been whooping up on everybody. I think there should have been some give and take there, as that race, because it ended up. I think they both, and I don't know, one of them got back out there. I know they both went in the hot. All three of them were sitting in the hot pit, and I was waiting for fireworks down in the hot pit down there. But I think everybody was too worried to get their cars back out on the track. But there should have been some give and take there, because it was fairly. I think it was not even quite halfway through the race yet, was it?
Oh no, I was pretty early. Right, Bert?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going off memory here,
so.
but that was pretty early.
Yeah, there should have been some give and take there. And like I said, it's tough from a racing standpoint. Like I said, if Max is rocking the cushion, it's hard to see what's in front of you. But I think he had some time to slow down. And like I said, it's a racing deal that could have been easily prevented with just the push of the brake pedal.
Well, and speaking of Mad Max, I mean, I got to really watch him race it over the past 2 days, and he is definitely fast, but he is like right on the edge. I saw him bounce off of cars and really stick the car maybe where it shouldn't have been placed. I was talking to somebody about his driving style, and he said, yeah, it reminds me of Terry Casey, that type of a driving style. So,
oh gosh, that's funny. All right, anything else to add on Friday for either class, either show?
Just want to make one mention. I don't know if you guys caught this, but when they interviewed T-Mac quite a bit on Friday, but he was racing a brand new car, a version 2 of the Rocket 1. So I would imagine that one has some updates, and T-Mac said that he needs, in the interview, he said that, he's used to setting up a car a certain way, and Mark Richards is setting it up a certain way, and T-Mac says that's never going to work. And T-Mac said, I just got to trust Mark, and I just need to drive it.
Well, and on it, that's interesting. And Ryan had mentioned on the show a few weeks ago, if you guys remember the conversation, he was saying Josh Richards, T-Mac is just not a fit for Mark Richards. He said, who, maybe this was around the RTJ time, and he's like, who would be a better fit? And I didn't really know what he was talking about. And after hearing T-Mac talk, and then myself talking to T-Mac just a little bit at the fans fund, I mean, he's not like frustrated or anything, but you could kind of tell in his voice, like, hey, it's time for a win. Like, I'm in the Rocket House car. I should be winning.
Yeah, well, did you hear his other interview when he made the comment about 90% of the slide jobs out here are dirty, and I've had enough of it. He's driving a lot harder too. And Brandon Shepard and Hudson O'Neill know where the gas pedal's at, and so that car's been basically hammered down, knows where the gas pedal is at for the last few years. So T-Mac, I really noticed he's been driving a lot harder. He hasn't been lifting as much. If he's going to give someone the quarter panel, he's going to give someone the quarter panel. If he's going to give someone the nose, he's going to give him the nose. So it's exactly what that car needs. It's the Rocket 1 car. He needs to say, I think he's kind of felt like he's been getting pushed around a little bit out on the racetrack. I think that's going to change now, and this is exactly what we need for super late model racing is T-Mac in that Rocket 1 car, not afraid to throw a slider and not afraid to use the bumper.
Well, on Friday, he did remember, he was turned around on the backstretch facing the cars. I mean, he was a little closer to the infield, thank God. But did either of you remember, was it Shirley? I'm trying to think of who or how that happened. I remember he went to the hot pit and he was able to come back out, but that could have been a scary one. And in the first race, there was a scary one with Shirley and Bruning. Bruning got turned around too.
Yeah, whenever you get turned around in front of oncoming cars, that's never a good situation. There's one of the accidents, I'm not sure, it might have been the T-Mac one, and I said to my friend, that could have been a lot worse than what it was. Luckily nobody hit him when he spun around in front of everybody.
That was the Bruning one when Bruning was sitting sideways, and I think someone got a piece of him. Two guys got a piece of him.
Yeah, Shirley, one of them for sure.
Someone could have hit him head on, and that would have been really, really bad.
Yeah, hey, Daryl Nelson was in last night, Saturday's heat race. Got him and that number 35, whatever. But yeah, they were both. Everyone was going for a lot. Well, that Kraus, you could probably explain it better. Quarter two is you see when you're running the top. Sometimes you have to. I don't know. I'm not a racer, but as soon as they got to come off that corner, you got to turn hard left because the wall's at an angle. If you ever go on the track and you look at that wall on the backstretch, it's not straight up and down. It's pushed over a little bit, and it gets a little narrower than I think a lot of people know.
It is. I-94 Speedway is just like that, and Ogilvy's kind of like that too. Where if someone's coming up off the bottom there, you just got to get in the habit of lifting and really watch. You know what I mean? Because if you stay in it, you're right rearing somebody into the fence. So. And you see a lot of guys don't race here weekly. They don't know these little quirks and new guys, and they don't race there weekly. The weekly guys know. You come out of 2 and there's someone underneath you, you better get ready to lift.
Well, and speaking of Friday and talking about accidents, Coach, did you see that Tristan Chamberlain flip in turn 2? That was nasty. That car got some air, and that chassis was brand new, only 4 nights on it, and it's junk.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
They posted on Facebook they're heading back to Wells to build another one.
Jeez. Okay. I didn't realize that. All right. Anything else to add on Friday? Either of you? All right. Let's move on to Saturday. But before we do, we want to talk a little bit about Brad Parsons Soil and Ag Solutions. A good-looking young chap who Bert and I got to talk to on, that was Thursday night, right, Bert? Yep. Young entrepreneur, full of energy. Like I said, first time I got to meet him face-to-face. So it was great meeting you, Brad. He said he's been coming for years. He used to race that weekend, and he said for some reason, rain or something, he got to make it over one year, had a free weekend. He said, I'm not racing this weekend ever again. I'm coming back to the USA Nationals. So great to meet him. But we talked about it before. If you're looking for some improvement in your yield, in your crops, get a hold of Brad, 320-219-3542. 320-219-3542. Brad Parsons Soil and Ag Solutions. All right, day 3. Well, let's start with this. Day 3 was Saturday. Kraus, you were strapped in. Why don't you tell us how your night went?
Well, my night went okay. Yeah. Of course, I draw dead last. Bert, that's just how I've been drawing this year. And I started 5th in my heat, which was dead last. We only had 11 cars. I ended up winning the heat, and then started 4th in the feature. Actually, I think I might have actually led a lap, Bert. And then we're still fighting some things handling wise with my car. Then Dexton Cook got me, and then Bailey Roche. We were battling for a while, and then restart came out, and I was battling Bailey Roche, and I cut one of my water lines down and lost all the water out of my engine, so I kind of had to back down and finish 3rd. So good podium. Thanks Dexton Cook for coming over and racing and mopping up on us. He's probably going to end up being the national champion. So and shout out to Dex. He had nothing but kind words. He thanked me. We let drivers in free at Viking Speedway, plus we give them a $10 food voucher to the concession stand. So cool to see Dexton come over, and he's personally thanked me and said, hey, thanks for what you do for the drivers here. So it's always cool when new people come, when you get that stuff. So we had the race on in my trailer. So actually me and Jason Theonis, is that what you call them, Bert? Is Thonies. Jason
Thonies.
Jason Thonies. Me and JT were in my trailer watching, and boy, I missed the last chance showdowns because they happened so early. I knew they moved the show up, and then I got busy and missed some stuff. But we had the race on in my trailer, and we're fortunate enough to saw a majority of the night anyway.
All right, well, let's back up from Cedar Lake here real quick. And by the way, fans, hit the like button right now. Why don't you start off with a little recap of the Waybam Dirt Kings, because we did one of our favorite drivers left Cedar Lake for that race over at 141.
Yeah, Nick Avalanche, who raced at Cedar Lake on Friday. Well, I stopped by his pits after Friday's event, and like I said before, I was talking to his dad, And at that point, his dad wasn't sure if Nick was going to stay or if he was going to go back to race for 4,600 to win with the Dirt Kings. And his dad said, "I know what my decision would be," meaning he would head for the 4,600 to win, which they wound up doing. And it was looking like a really great decision because Nick started on the pole in the feature at 141 in the Dirt Kings, but he wound up finishing third in the race. Jaden Schmidt, who's in his second year racing a late model, picked up the win. It's his second win of the year. He probably should have won this race last year because last year the track rubbered up at like 10 laps in and he was leading, but he tried to pass a car and Nick ducked underneath him. And it was all over after that. But a good win for Jaden Schmidt. What I heard was the track was very racy for the late models, which was good to see. It wasn't a lockdown race like it was last year. Taylor Scheffler was second. Like I said, Nick was third. And Mike Mullen in a brand new Longhorn chassis was fourth. I heard Mullen led a good portion of the race, but then faded at the end. Jesse Glenn's went to race with the Dirt Kings, and he was a DNF and finished 18th.
Boy, the struggles continue for that team. Whew. Struggles continue. So I'm just looking here. I don't know how updated these are, but it looks like Nick still has a 40-point lead over Brett Swedberg in the Waybamm Dirt Kings points race. Anything to add on that, Coach?
Nope, I didn't see a lap of it, and I don't remember. We picked that race, didn't we, Bert?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Well,
I think I went up.
You said you were going to pick Avalanche, but then you heard he was going to Cedar Lake, so I don't remember who you picked then.
No, I took someone else. I can't remember who it was. I changed my pick though, but I didn't take Avalanche. I took somebody. I'm sure he DNF, so it don't matter anyway.
Well, while you got the mic, Coach, why don't you plug Elevate Visual for us, please?
Yes, absolutely. ElevateVisual.com video production. Make sure you need any video work done, get a hold of Brandon. He's top notch. He's a racing guy. He does production at the Wissota 100. He does production at the Boone Super Nationals. He does all my production up at Viking Speedway. So you need any drone work done. He also does advertising videos for businesses. So if you need any of that work done, get a hold of Brandon at elevate-visual.com. You can also find him on Facebook.
All right, awesome. All right, so let's get into day 3, the final night of the Aggressive Hydraulics 37th Annual USA Nationals. And maybe, Bert, we'll start out with this. Crowd size, obviously, it was well reported. Well, it wasn't well reported because the day before, I think there was like a 0% chance of rain. Another reason Nick Ambling probably left. And then my brother, I don't know, we're at breakfast 8 in the morning on Saturday. He said, "Oh, it's up to a 50% chance of rain." What are you talking about? So, yeah, it's coming from back home. It's coming from up north. It's coming from Canada straight down. They moved up the start time to, was it 5 o'clock hot laps, right? 5:30 racing,
Yeah.
Bert? Does that sound right?
Yep.
But just overall thoughts on the crowd, like I said, somewhat weather affected.
Well, I think, I don't have any verification on this, but I think the crowd was a little bit smaller, but I think it was based on the early start time. Maybe by the end of the race, once the feature time got there, the crowd was back to where it was, but it just didn't seem as crowded. The camping area was just crazy. And that's one thing. We went into the pits on Friday night, and there's 4-wheelers and side-by-sides and golf carts all over the place flying around the pits. And obviously probably some of the people driving those shouldn't be driving them at that time. So it just seems like that increases.
Yeah. Guess how many campsites, Coach? I talked to one of the owners.
No idea.
1,300, and they were
Wow.
and so I asked for one for next year, and they said we'll put you on the list, but most don't count on it. But about, what would you say, Bert? 3-4 years, and they must have got that land like pre-COVID across the street from the main grandstands. And I want to say about 2020, there were 5 to 10 campers over there. This year, there must have been 75. So, and they extended the camping into the main parking lot on the front stretch. So the front stretch isn't really a spot for parking so much. As a matter of fact, I heard, we'll call them seasoned fans, been coming for years, a little older in age, and especially Saturday when we're getting there at 2 o'clock racing, it's 89 degrees and it's 155% humidity. They weren't real happy with having to walk over, and they got your seats, you got some stuff in your hands. They said, boy, I'm came here 20 minutes before the event and I'm parked a quarter mile away because everybody's kind of going across the road now. So that was one thing that I found interesting. It was just kind of an odd year. I'll just go on a real quick tangent. We'll get back to the racing, but so between the no Thursday racing, the feature getting cut short, and me for the first time ever, and I've been going to the USA Nationals for at least 30 years. I'd have to do a more accurate count, but I didn't make it into the pits once. Now that you had mentioned the pits, it just, with the way everything went with the rain and we get a feature cut short. There could be a lot of oddities looking back on this one in 5 to 10 years and say, remember that weird year back in 2024? It was almost like, in some ways nothing went right. But all right, where do we want to start on the racing, boys? Go ahead, either one of you, fire away.
Well, I mean, like you mentioned, they moved it up hot laps to 5 o'clock, which obviously was the right decision. But by moving it up to that, you're catching the tail end of the day, so it's still daytime racing, basically. So, the track wasn't the greatest for some of the and well, Puka, you and I were talking about it. We knew they were going to tear up the track before the feature because there was no way they were going to run the feature after those dashes where there was absolutely no passing. Looking back, I wish they would have not raced the local late models, dug up the track first, run the Outlaws, and then try to get the local late models in after that. But we talked a lot on this show, though, about how these races are too long, that, maybe they should be 50 laps or 75 laps. But after, expecting 100 laps and only seeing 56, I want 100 laps.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I do too. I'm with you.
Well, let me preface that. I want 100 laps. I want 100 laps with that track. If they would not have farmed it and they would have raced on the track without farming it, then give me 50 because there wouldn't have been much of a race anyway. Coach is rolling his eyes at me.
Look at him.
Bert, listen. What's the first comment on the first comment I read about the deal was perfect. It should only race 50 laps anyway. That was the first comment that I read on this whole deal. So I got a question for you guys because I missed them. And explain a little bit different of a dash format, 2 dashes, and then talk about, I missed the last chance qualifiers, both of them, or the last chance showdowns, whatever. Were those good races? Explain kind of how the dash thing worked.
Well, the dash was the dash was the top 8 in points race for the top 8 spots in the feature. So they lined them up straight up, top point getter, second on back, and then you're racing for spots 1 through 8 in a feature, and then the top 9 through 16, right? 9 through 16 in points raced in the second dash, and they raced for their starting positions. But the track was not very racy at that point, so everybody just kind of stayed where they were anyway. So it really didn't. I think Pierce was third in points, and he got up to second, so he advanced 1 spot and was able to start on the outside of the front row then. But it wasn't really racy at that point, and at that point we knew they were going to tear up the track, no matter if it took time or not.
Well, yeah, before one of the races too, they were all running on the bottom, and they came out and did kind of a heavy mist back on the bottom. Because remember, Troy Springboard, fellow racer, he's like, what are they doing? Like this, that's where everyone's racing. And yeah, because the last chance qualifiers, not only was the track bad, but what were they going, Bert? They only went like 8 or 10 laps. They were pretty short.
Yeah, it was a really short race.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like if I'm traveling from Arkansas, I've got some mechanical trouble in my heat race. So now I got to go to the B, and I'm going to race a 10-lap B against, I don't know, 14. They did 2, but they about, I don't know, 12 cars apiece, Bert, you say? 10 to 12. You know, each of those B, you know, and it's like, boy, what do you think, Coach? You know, like I said, you come from Georgia, you come from North Carolina, and Mad Max from upstate New York, and you're gonna, you know, like I said, say you got mechanical problems. Not even your foot, you get a flat tire, somebody hits you, and all of a sudden, I got 10 laps to try and make the show.
Well, and then it was 16 cars. I got it pulled up right here. So you had 16 cars, 16 cars, 10 laps, top 3. I mean, like, and you got to remember with the points format, and you look, you know, Turbo, Max McLaughlin, Chad Mater, Weiss, Bloomquist was the top 5 in the one while they all started up front. And even if you do catch them, you're going to have a hard time passing all those guys. You know, I mean, the first one, Tyler Bruning, Cade Dillard, Mike Marlar. I mean, 3 guys that could possibly win the big race. Were in an LCQ. You're not going to catch those guys. So, and then you know, the showdowns were 10 laps, 16, you know, and then the last chance qualifier was 15 laps with 14 cars. You know what I mean? Yeah. Doesn't make much sense with what they did there.
Yeah, that, like I said, that really stuck out to me because I just thought, boy, I'd be pretty frustrated if I was a guy in that situation. So they started what, 28? Is that what they're showing, Coach?
29.
29. Okay. And Bert, I think we kind of got the rundown on this. So they did, you got your World of Outlaw provisionals. In this case, they got a Fans Fun provisional. Cedar Lake's got a provisional because we're kind of one, and Bloomquist didn't make it through the B. And then they got the last chance qualifier. And go ahead, pick up the story from there.
Well, and that was funny because after the B that Bloomquist was in, he walked across the track in turn 2 down into the infield and talked to the driver of the water truck for a little bit. And then he walked back to the pits. And then the last chance qualifier, the cars came out. And, you know, I was expecting Bloomquist to start up near the front because, you know, he was 1 spot away from qualifying and Bloomquist was nowhere to be seen. And I said to my friend, he's got a provisional. Somehow he got a provisional.
Well, he got that provisional back about 7-8 years ago. Remember when he couldn't qualify, and then Cedar Lake provisional, Scott Bloomquist, and half the crowd roars and half the crowd boos. You know. All right. So where do we go from here? Right on to the feature. I mean, well, let's kind of set this up for the fans too. They got the normal intros. Like if you didn't stream it, you know, normally Cedar Lake does a long introduction process. They did farm the track. But they skip that long driver info. We get, they got the lights come down and it's almost like a hockey game. They got one light on you. And there was lightning in the sky, and the way we're set up on the front stretch, we really can't see it. Gets back to Coach's point earlier. They're in the pits. When they're looking at the track, they're looking northwest where the rain was coming from. That thought of maybe some guys doing a softer tire, and with Hannah Newhouse saying on a couple of those cautions that guys were coming in, their tires are already melted. That was kind of interesting. But like I said, the weather started playing a major factor right around start time of that feature.
Well, and right before the feature, the wind picked up and it got a little bit cooler. So you knew the front was coming through.
So where do we want to go from here? Just talk a little bit about the race. I mean, obviously it was Davenport and Pierce. Davenport leads early. Like I said, probably the dirtiest the Grant says I've ever been. You know, my daughter's there. She's only come to a couple of them. I said, listen, it's normally not like this. I mean, I don't think she saw a lap. She had her face in her lap. But it was, the wind was, probably the worst I've ever seen it. And, but then, of course, Pierce kind of gets out that, well, let's talk about the first lap. How about B-Shep? I guess it ended up being, what did he knock?
Broke a fuel line.
There you go. Knocked the fuel line or broke a fuel line. So he back to an original restart, he's coasting. He ends up, 27th or something like that,
Well, because he didn't get back out onto the track before they restarted the race. He was still in the hot pit when they restarted the race. And then he came back out at the next caution. Point racing.
Yeah, points race. It's kind of putter on the back.
He made a comment about that. I was just reading his Facebook page that he didn't receive any courtesy laps for that deal. So
that's what I was thinking.
I don't know if it's a flat tire only or got something, because it kind of sounded like if they would have got courtesy laps, he would have been able to get back out there.
Okay, because they restarted that race really fast after Bishop pulled off. And I just want to add, if you would have asked me Friday night who was going to win Saturday, I was going to say Bishop, because watching him in that last feature on Friday, he could race the top, he could race the bottom, he could race the middle. He had that car really balanced to race anywhere on the track.
Well, yeah, and I think who kind of stole, let's get to the point on the Saturday night, who kind of stole the show. Of course, Pierce is going for the record, right? 7 in a row. Only 2 people have done it. I think Lanigan in 12 and Moyer back in the day got 6 in a row. So he's going for 7 in a row. He clears Davenport, and he kind of sets sail. Bobby Pierce just being Bobby Pierce in 2024. There are a couple of restarts.
Go ahead. Pierce wasn't going for the record yes on Saturday, because Gustin won the race Friday night.
Oh, okay. So it was okay. I'm sorry. Okay, so he tied it, or what?
He tied it. He tied it in the first feature on Friday, but then Gustin won the second feature.
The second. Okay. Yep. You're right. So, and then so Bronson's hanging around, Davenport's hanging around. Hoffman's unfortunately backpedaling for his weekend as far as his points, but the talk of the night ends up being, of course, the local out of Rochester, Minnesota, Dustin Sorensen. After a couple of restarts, he's finding his way into the top 3, and then you guys can kind of take it from here, but I think he developed a lot of fans with what ended up being about 5 laps to go, because they had a caution on lap 47. I think the other one about 54, but he made things real interesting.
Yeah, Sorensen found something on the top side, and I'm not saying he would have won the race, but he would have passed Bobby Pierce for the lead unless Pierce's dad would have motioned Bobby to get up to the top, because Sorensen got by Bronson just as the yellow came out, and I think he would have got by Pierce fair in the next lap or so. I'm not saying he would have won the race, but I think he would have taken the lead at least for a short amount of time.
Coach?
Yeah, it's interesting. I looked at the results here. There was definitely some tire stuff going on here, guys. And I was watching that race, and Pierce was almost just pedaling through the corners when Sorensen was railing the high side. Wonder if he wasn't saving his stuff, or maybe he felt the tire going down. If he was going soft, maybe Sorensen went a little bit harder, and all of a sudden his tires were coming in. Cade Dillard went from 19th to 7th in a little over 50 laps. What he have on for tires. Got to give a shout out to Sam Mars.
Yeah, I was
plus 12, 23rd. He ended up 11th and still had 50 laps to go. So interesting you bring up. Now, when you guys said there was lightning and the skies were going on, those guys were 100% playing tire games in the pit.
Right. Even Huddy. Where do you see Huddy there? Because Huddy went through the B, didn't he, Bert?
Yeah, he advanced quite a few in the feature.
Yeah.
He was up to 6th. He started 13th.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And you're passing lumber in this race no matter where you start. You pass one car, you're passing somebody who's really, really good. So, to see these guys move up as much as they did is kind of, there was definitely some tire game going on here. Sucks for Bishop. He was really, really good. And to bust that fuel line is super tough, but it was definitely a tire game. If it's not a tire game and it goes 100 laps, I don't think anybody touches Pierce, to be honest with you. I think if it would have went 100 laps, I think that baby would have rubbered up and would have latched down. So maybe some of these guys were playing, hey, you can still pit at 50 laps and still win the thing. There's no doubt about it. You know what I mean? So I bet there was it was interesting to hear that. I wasn't aware of any of that tire stuff. But now that you guys are talking about, there was big time tire games going on.
Well, a guy that might have done a tire game and lost the deal was Nick Hoffman. Another guy sitting there in second of the points, -7. First, I don't know, 15 laps, Bird. You maybe he started second in, I think. I mean, he was second or third in or whatever. He was right there. And then all of a sudden, it was on some of those restarts. It was just a super fade for him. Bird, you had brought up Kyle Bronson on that last restart. So, said Bronson gets into second. I think second pays, I don't know, 20, 25 grand. And you could see him. It starts sprinkling a little, Coach. And his hands out the window like, are we going? Are we going? Because they know they got it to halfway. You could see him. He's just, you remember, Bert?
Well, yeah, you made that comment to me. And then I actually watched the last 10 or so laps again this afternoon because I'll explain a little bit why. But in the telecast, Ruben goes and Bronson has his arm out the window. I'm not exactly sure what that's all about, but yeah, I think it was, come on, let's get this race going. But the reason I rewatched it again at the end was because I thought Sorensen was past Bronson long enough to finish second, but he overtook Bronson right as the yellow came out. So they did get that right. Because I thought Sorensen should have got second, but they got that right.
So I get back to the hotel. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, but that's the thing when you watch something live and everything happens really fast, you kind of have a set thing on, yeah, this happened, but then you rewatch it and no, it didn't quite happen the way you remember it.
Well, and of course, we're just feeling those Ranger, because I told my kids if it starts, I'm out of here. Like I'm bolted. Like I'm not going to sit here and get dumped on. I just, and there's so many people and everyone's trying to get out. And so, there was kind of a distraction there. Getting back to Dustin Sorensen, of course, you had mentioned Terry Casey. I mean, Terry Casey in 2009, he leads the most laps. Gets an offender bender with his quote unquote teammate, Dave Kane, who wasn't really his teammate, racing for Arnie Ranton. But this is, and even that Tyler McDonald, the one year when he came on the One to Go Show late model side and won that feature and nobody knew who he was. And of course, Glenn's in some of the bigger stages at Cedar Lake. And like, this was Sorensen's night. And unfortunately, the raindrops came 5, 7, 10, maybe whatever. Like you said, he might not have won the race. But I think he would have had the place on his feet if he just would have completed a pass of Bobby, even if it was for a lap or two.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, he finished 16th in the daytime feature, but the next two features, he finished 6th and 3rd. I mean, very strong outing for Sorensen. I mean, nothing to be ashamed of there.
Coach?
Yeah, no, I think he's been really picking up. He's been getting faster lately. Sorensen has, and I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned here in the next 2 months to go. He wants to wrap up that rookie deal, get some experience under his belt, and definitely a hometown guy every time he comes around here because there's really no Minnesota guys on that deal. Brent Larson, but Brent's not lighting the world on fire on that deal. So I think us Minnesota folks are waiting for kind of a hometown guy to take the bull by the horns and be a contender, every night with World Outlaws.
So I get back to the hotel, and of course there's some people, little hometown cooking. So of course, race fans, you had to go back and remember. So Pierce, of course, he's going to be a World of Outlaw guy, and then he gets the tire deal early in the year. He gets a really big suspension and penalty, and then they come back and say, well, it's not going to be, this is like in March. Well, the penalty is not going to be that bad. So some of these people are like, well, little hometown cooking. They waived it so Pierce would win because Sorensen was coming because they want Pierce in the point deal, which my understanding, he's only 79 points back now. But either you have an opinion that there might have been a little hometown cooking by World of Outlaw officials on that?
Well, when I left the track, I thought about that. I thought it was kind of convenient when they threw it, but watching the video again today, it was raining pretty good when they threw that yellow.
Okay. Coach, you got an opinion on that?
Well, I was standing in my trailer watching it with Jason Tennis, and they all went into 1 and 2, and we're like, Pierce broke. You know what I mean? You guys knew what was going on there, but us watching it on TV, we're going, what's going on? What's going on with Pierce? And then we're like, it's raining.
Yeah.
So the first thing I thought of, I don't know, you guys remember Remember in Huron a few years ago with the modifieds, they took the green, they went down the front stretch and it was bone dry in 1 and 2. Well, it was downpouring rain in 3 and 4. And the modifieds
No.
came down the back stretch and they tore up some equipment because they had no idea. Half-mile track, downpouring in 3 and 4, nothing in 1 and 2. So they got that yellow out just in time because that would have been really nasty.
That happened at
good.
Eldora not that long ago too. They entered 1 and it wasn't raining in 3 and 4, but it started raining in turn 1 and they all got into 1 and were sliding around. Luckily, not a huge pile up. But yeah, I agree with Coach. They threw the yellow right at the right time.
All right. Any closing thoughts on the Nationals?
Well, we were talking about points racing. Shepard and Hoffman. Hoffman's 26 points behind Brandon Shepard right now. That was a tough break for Shepard in that feature yesterday. And according to the Outlaw website, Pierce is 76 points behind.
76.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's getting tight. I mean, he's. I mean, it'd still be tough for him, but he's definitely back in the running. I mean, he's had the best July by far of maybe ever a late model driver ever in a July. I mean, he won the XR. He's what? I mean, how much money did he make in July?
Yeah. Well, the last 2 weeks he's made 100,000.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been, he's been incredible and lights out. So, anything else to close up the Nationals, Coach?
I'm excited to watch this point battle. I called it a few weeks ago. I want a 3-car race going into Charlotte. And I want 3 nights where they're duking it out down there. And tell you what, Bobby Pierce is putting pressure on Hoffman and Shepard, and you can see it in Shepard. Shepard's driving a lot harder. And I think it's actually made him faster. And he knows it. He knows Pierce is pretty much unbeatable right now, and you better start winning. You start finishing podiums and top 5s and top 10s. That's not going to do it racing Bobby Pierce. So I'm real excited to see a good finish here at the World Outlaw Points.
All right, guys, we're just a little over an hour in. Anything else? I'm pretty much. I need some sleep. Go ahead.
Well, Coach has a fan question, I think.
I do. It leads up into the little dream. We'll do one fan feedback question here, since we always do a fan feedback question here. And this got sent in to Ryan. Ryan's not here because he's up in northern Siberia, and it has to do with the little dream and some teching. Now, the question comes from an anonymous tech official. That's what this comes down to. No names giving. I don't know if it's a WSOTA tech guy, an IMCA tech guy, a World Outlaw tech guy, or whatever the heck it is. But he wants to know, at the end of the day, who is responsible for building a legal race car? Is it the licensed driver? Is it the engine builder? Is it the chassis builder? At the end of the day, who's responsible for building a legal car? I want to get your guys' thoughts, then I'll give you my thoughts.
Well, in my opinion, ultimately, it's the responsibility of the driver to know that car is legal. Unfortunately, you have to trust the people who are building your engine and building your chassis, because you're not, you're paying them to build your engine. You're not going to get the engine back and then tear it apart to make sure that it's legal. I mean, I think ultimately it's up to the driver to have a legal car, but you have to have trust in the people who build you that car.
Wow, you talk about a great, almost like a TV series, or just like some great, lawyers could fight this one out for hours, right? In days, because like you said, well, I'm engine builder. I gave it to the guy. He's supposed to check it out. And the lawyer says on the driver's side, well, but driver A doesn't know how to take everything apart. He doesn't build engines. He's a race car driver. I mean, this is kind of a chicken and the egg deal. It's a really tough. I mean, I agree with Bert. I mean, ultimately the driver has to, or team owner at least, has to be responsible. But boy, I don't know anything about engines, right? So if I'm going to race and bring it to my builder, so was the motor, right? Yup. You know the rules, right? Yup. All right, here's your check. I'm taking the engine. What do you think, Coach?
Yeah, that's it's a really tough deal, especially this day and age, guys. You know how it goes. You're going to call up MB, you're going to call up Longhorn or Rocket and say, I want a turnkey car. And here you go. Here's your WISSOTA legal late model. Or you're going to call up Nick Trainer's car owner is going to call up Paskey Auto and say, I want a WISSOTA legal motor. Yep, it's legal. Go race. You know what I mean? And like Bert said, you're not going to bring the engine home and tear it apart and see if it's legal. You know what I mean?
Just got put together.
I mean, and there's very few people that know. I'm fortunate enough where I have someone do my machining and my dad puts my engines together. You know what I mean? Like, I got engine problems right now. I'm not dropping it off at my engine builder's doorstep. My dad's taking it out right now and we're rebuilding it ourselves right now. That doesn't happen. There's probably 99% of the racers out there that can't do that. So at the end of the day, who gets in trouble? It's the driver. Your engine builder don't get in trouble. They don't care. You know, that's, and you know, another thing is that this has gone down in the supers. This has gone down in every class. These engine builders get a top driver come to them for a motor. Yeah, I'm going to cheat this thing up and I'm going to give it to one of the top guys. He's going to go out there and win a bunch of races. And guess what? My phone's going to be ringing. There's going to be people knocking on my door for my engines. It's happened in the past. I know for a fact it happened in the super stock class back in the day. This guy got real popular building illegal engines and everybody wanted them because they were winning in their car. So it's a tough deal at the end of the day. It comes down to the driver. You know, I think this is where that, like I said, we rip on WISSOTA for all this nitpicking stuff. You know, wheel stickers and seat belts and all this crap and cold air boxes and 4 inches here and a ½ inch there. And, you know, let's start tearing intakes apart and seeing what's going on with these engines and doing things that's actually gonna, all right, these guys are serious. But again, at the end of the day, you don't know. You have to trust the guy you're buying the car from, or these modified guys are pushing the limits on chassis and frames and stuff and all these engine builders. So at the end of the day, the driver gets in trouble. It's your responsibility to know. You know, another point we brought up too, if you don't know, call WISSOTA. They'll have a tech guy come over and check your stuff before you race. Billy's done it. There's been other guys that have done it in the past. So if you don't know, have them check your intake out. Have them look at your heads before you start racing. They will do that. They've done it in the past, and they will do it. So I know it's a pain in the butt, but I'd rather know that I'm legal going out there and not showing up a Tuesday night in Rice Lake and being minus $30,000.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. All right, boys. Anything else to add? Who's you watching the Capitani?
Heat 1's just starting right now. So
okay.
I got Casino on over here. Street stock features going on. I'm watching Knoxville 80. Did I say 82, 84 sprint cars tonight?
Really? Okay. Wow.
So good.
A lot of guys don't run that.
Yeah, Heat 1 just started right now, so you guys are going to be able to watch some racing.
Okay. Awesome. Anything else to add, Bert? It was good seeing you this weekend, as always.
Yeah, it was good seeing you. Our yearly visit. It was fun. I actually took like a 2-hour nap this afternoon when I got back. But yeah, it was fun. I always love USA Nationals weekend.
Yeah, I need a nap myself. But yeah, and thanks to everyone at Cedar Lake and you know, everything for the fan down there. You know, the flyover. There was the band that was playing in Souvenir Row. I mean, just every year, even renewing the tickets. You know how hot it was, and they had the canopies, so you didn't have to stand in the sun. It just, you know, every year, just a little. Did you notice the decks are like the outdoor booth time things in the pits now above the pit grandstands? Did you notice that, Bert?
Did notice those, yes.
Yeah. New wall. You know, there's that new wall on the back on the inside of the
I noticed
track.
that also.
Yeah, they're just, you know, so every year, and like I said, the camping's kind of insane. But you know, thanks to everyone down there. Anything else to add, Coach, or I'll close her up?
Close her up.
All right. You can find all of us. Well, first off, hammer the like button, hit the share button. Some good stuff here. We appreciate that. Find us all on Facebook at Bert Lehman, at Ryan Aho, at Racer Puka, and at Jeff Krause. Join the aforementioned Jeff Krause on the Dirt Podcast. When you got the next epi coming?
I think we're going to do one this week. Also, quick shout out. I have one to go show stickers in my trailer. I got Dirt Podcast stickers. I handed out about maybe darn near 10, 12 One to Go Show stickers. So we should be getting some pictures of some cars. A lot of guys are hopping on board getting the One to Go Show stickers on your car. So if you need one, make sure you stop by Viking Speedway and get your One to Go Show sticker.
Yes, and we love that. Like the onetogoshow@gmail.com. If you want to email, we love pictures, videos of your cars, anything, or even if there's like action on the track, like maybe someone didn't catch it, you're on his cell phone, like sending us clips. So we love that kind of stuff. And speaking of the stickers, yeah, so I did a little bit here. We still got some merch to blow out. We got the t-shirts, $10. Like I said, instant messenger, whatever. Just get a hold of us. We can get these to you somehow. We got a couple of hoodies left. I think we've got like XL and double XL are all that's left in the hoodies. So I know, and we're probably going to do a merch drop sooner than later. So if you have any ideas of something you'd like or like to see, like I said, we take feedback on that. I want this certain kind of hat, or I'm looking for like a zip up collar kind of deal. So if you have some suggestions, we're open to listening to that too. So we'd appreciate that. And that's about it. So yeah, we'll just thank the greatest partners on earth: Brad Parsons Soil and Ag Solutions, Elevate Visual, Impact Health Sharing, Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating, Daytona 1, Dirt Race Central, and Hard Charger Race Engines. Like I said, the onetogoshow@gmail.com. Get a hold of us there. Hit us up, Spotify, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook. We're back on Rumble. Our numbers have been going up on Rumble, and of course, YouTube. So for Burt Lehman and for Coach Kraus, I am Puka. Get out there and be your dream. You're tuned to the One to Go Show. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please leave a review and subscribe. It is Puka. And Goat Sports has another show out there by podcast, Facebook, and YouTube. It's the Tea with Miss McGill show. Covers hockey, high school hockey in northern Minnesota. So if you're into hockey, you can find us on podcast under Tea with Miss McGill. You can find us on YouTube or Facebook, Goat Sports Media LLC. Yours truly and Coach Reed Larson. We break it down every week. We also do some interesting interviews. We'd love to have you. So tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch you next week.
Goat Sports.